guys, it is April from Getting Hooked With It. Today we're going to be talking about thrillers, and if you're new to the thriller genres, I've got some good starting out places for you. So I think I have five or six recommendations here, and I love all of them. So I want to share them with you. Let's get into it. So the first recommendation I have for you is if you are new to the thriller genre, if you just want to kind of dip your toe in it, you usually read more like lighter kinds of books, more contemporary stuff, I would recommend that you pick up Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. This is really, it's borderline thriller, but it's much more of like a contemporary mystery. But this follows a group of women who all have children at elementary school, and they all go to elementary school together. And it is about the women themselves and their relationships with one another. It's also about the children and their relationships with one another. And there are several mysteries and dramas that, come up in this book. With the kids, with the parents, and I really enjoyed this. It's definitely fast-paced. Liane Moriarty definitely writes fast-paced books, and there are little moments where you will get a little nervous for some of the characters. So if you're new to the genre, I feel like that might be a good place to start. Now, those of you who have read some thrillers before and have read thrillers like, The Girl on the Train, books with unreliable narrators, and if you like that kind of thriller, I would highly recommend reading The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. I just read this a couple of weeks ago and just totally fell in love. I couldn't stop flipping the pages, and I personally think this is one of the best, well-written thrillers that I've read in a while. I loved his writing style. This is about a woman who can't really leave her home. I believe she's agoraphobic, and she just can't leave her home. So what she does all day is she watches TV. She specifically watches old black and white suspense films, and then she drinks wine, a lot of wine, and she spies on her neighbors. And one day while she's spying on her neighbors, she sees something that she shouldn't, and she can't seem to shake it, and she needs to get to the bottom of it. I really loved this book. I know that the unreliable narrator thing is kind of hit or miss. Not every thriller can do that really well, but I thought it was done really well here in this book. Similarly, if you're into domestic dramas like Gone Girl or something along those lines, these books that examine relationships, I would recommend Unraveling Oliver. Now, this was a beautiful book. I was sucked right in. This follows Oliver, who happened to badly injure his wife. He attacked his wife. She is in the hospital. She is in a coma. And you read about Oliver from various perspectives, from his own perspective, as well as several other people who either knew Oliver really well or knew his wife Alice really well. And this goes into the history of his childhood even. It goes way back. This is just the most lovely little onion that you get to peel back and find out who Oliver was and his relationship with Alice and what would cause him to attack her. I loved it. Very well written. So definitely take a look for that. Now, if you usually read historical fiction, if that's kind of the genre that you lean towards most of the time and you want to dabble in the thriller genre, I would highly recommend picking up Tangerine. This is a new release this year. Another beautifully written book. I feel like just because it's a thriller doesn't mean that you get to get away with crappy writing, for me at least. I need it to be good writing for me to enjoy it. And so Tangerine is just one hell of a ride. We are following a woman who moves with her husband to Tangier, and it is a like hot kind of desert kind of setting, and she has moved there, and one day her old friend from college shows up at her door. Now, this is a far, far trip to make to just randomly show up. So this is her friend Lucy that shows up. And our main character is not thrilled that Lucy is there. They didn't end off with like on the best of terms. And now that she's here, she doesn't really know how to react. And you find out why our main character, I think her name is Alice too, we find out why Alice is so uncomfortable with Lucy being there. So good. So good. This author, Christine Mangan, she studied Gothic literature, and it really, really shows. So if you like historical fiction, I would definitely pick that up. Tangerine is set in like the 1950s, so definitely historical fiction. If you are more accustomed to being scared, if you love horror books, I've got 2 books that I want to recommend to you. The first is The Chalk Man. This is very much a nod to Stephen King. This is very, very similar to It. We follow a group of children who are playing outside over the course of this summer. They come up with this little secret language with one another where they draw little chalk drawings at the end of each other's driveways to say, today we're going to the park, meet me in the forest. And one day they all wake up and they look at the end of their driveway, and there's chalk men that lead them to the woods. In the woods they find a dismembered body. So creepy. This is a very lovely layered story where there's every child and their parents, they all have storylines, and all of these storylines web, they just are beautifully interlinked, and I really loved it. And it's also a little bit graphic at times, and definitely a nod to Stephen King, my goodness. The other book I would recommend for you, and the final book I have to suggest here, is also for you horror lovers out there, and that is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I feel like I'm constantly recommending Pretty Girls to people. But Pretty Girls is a story about a woman whose husband dies. She is mourning. His business partner asks her to like look on his computer. He needs some stuff for their business, and so she's trying to find these files that her husband's business partner needs. And she stumbles on something on her husband's computer that changes everything, completely changes the way that she looks at him, and it's incredibly disturbing. Warning, this is the most graphic thriller I've ever read in my life. It's incredibly violent. I was incredibly uncomfortable reading it, and I almost feel like you need a strong stomach to read it. So you've been warned, but those are my thriller recommendations for newbies to the genre. I hope that you enjoyed this, and let me know in the comments below what the best thriller that you have read lately has been. I'll see you later. Bye!